afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this press conference. As a curtain raiser to the round of talks on Syria, I will give the floor to Staffan de Mistura, the UN Special Envoy for Syria, straight away, and then we will take a few questions. Mr. de Mistura.
Thank you, Alessandra, and thank you for being here. Since you are so many, I will provide time for questions. It's only fair that this takes place. And I will be making a little bit longer remarks than I'm used to do, because I would like to, and you deserve it, to put what we are trying to do, what is happening in the context, the geopolitical context, the regional context, and the so-called Astana, Geneva, but also other things happening. So all this is connected and connectable, and I think it's only fair we put it into context. So, thank you. So, first of all, the facts. Today we started this new round of talks. I will then elaborate what we plan or could achieve out of it, but first let's put things into context. Because, and it's not only a general operational context, but it's a political historic context at this moment. So we are not working in a vacuum, okay? So when you look at Geneva, say what's happening in Geneva is part of an overall approach. So let me explain why we are not working in a vacuum. Because what we are doing is aimed at contributing and preparing the follow-up to various initiatives, developments on the ground, and the broader political arena, which is constantly changing these days. Astana, just to mention one place where I was, and then we put in context with Hamburg and what we are doing, and elsewhere in the field. Astana, yes, we were there. There was a lot of good work. I know many of you have been saying that the objective that was aimed at to have the announcement of a mechanism of monitoring and a clear delineation of the three de-escalation areas was not achieved. But I can tell you nevertheless that I know, because I was there was a lot of groundwork being done. The word groundwork and homework is not irrelevant at this moment, because there is a lot of that happening, including here. And it was in the right direction. There was one area in particular which was complicated, Idlib, as you know. They are still discussing that. I think the visit of the Secretary of State Tillerson in Turkey this day has been also, in a way, looking at that as well, because it is an issue that needs to be solved. But there was a lot of groundwork, and could have been almost announced if we have gone through that one. Hamburg. Well, you know better than anyone, there was a lot of high-level meetings which took place, and many of them took place with some reference to the Syrian crisis. And those included also the well-known announcement by the presidents of the Russian Federation and the United States of America about an agreement regarding both Russian Federation, USA, and Jordan on the de-escalation in an area in the southwest, which you're probably familiar with. Now, this took place officially and de facto at 12 o'clock, as you know, and as the Secretary Antonio Guterres said, and I confirm, we consider it a significant development and a step forward into the de-escalation of an area which, and here is my comment, was becoming increasingly a potentially dangerous flashpoint. The agreement, which has started, as you know, is basically broadly holding quite well. I know in all these agreements there is a period of adjustment. We are watching that very carefully. There have been incidents at the very beginning. There have been some sporadic incidents, but we can still say, and we believe that it has fairly good chances of working out. The devil is in the detail. There are some issues which may be complicating it, but we believe it has a very strong chance of being implemented. The agreement was done after a long preparation. I'm aware of the details of it, long and very intense preparation done, and actually is currently still taking place on the details in discussions in Amman, which can then produce this operational center, which in a way will be monitoring that part. So let's again go back to the context, okay? We spoke about Astana, we spoke about Hamburg, and we've been saying that there are a lot of things happening on the ground and in the political environment. So things are evolving quite rapidly in this context, not only on the ground, you can see it, and on the political and the regional and geopolitical environment. We are perhaps, and this is a personal consideration, but I think that I can be allowed to actually make some personal analysis. I think perhaps we are witnessing a phase of simplifying the most complex conflict of our time. It has become, as you know, the most complex conflict because over the years several layers have been actually placed or been placing themselves over what initiated in a relatively simple but very tense way and then became one layer after the other. That has included agendas, have been adding new players and various complicating factors. So let's see in what direction this simplification may take place and in what direction this potentially could be proceeding. Basically by deconstructing the layers and identify clear priorities and possible common grounds. Look at what is being said and what has been discussed these days. It is perhaps in that direction. So let's imagine what could be this simplification, which may help in addressing what has been the most complex conflict. First one, apart from the common understanding of everyone that no way that chemical weapons should be allowed and should be able to be used in Syria, it is Daesh and other terrorist organizations. Brussels, St. Petersburg, Paris, London, Sinai, Istanbul, Tunis, Stockholm, Sydney, Ottawa, Berlin, Iraq cities, Syrian cities, and a reminder of many other places are all a reminder that the global community, the leaders who are attending Hamburg and the leaders who are actually talking to each other are clearly focusing on this as a major priority. Can we blame them? Now, what just happened in Mosul yesterday and may happen soon in Raqqa is a demonstration of this renewed common priority. The second, almost parallel priority is the escalation. The escalation is what the Syrian people have been asking, begging everyone, including the UN, for a long time. Hence our own support for the Astana process, which is mutually reinforcing the Geneva one, and what has been the three areas which are being identified as the escalation area, and of course our support to the Southwest Agreement announced in Hamburg. This de-escalation process needs, however, to be considered as interim. Let me underline the word interim. And with a clear understanding that it's not going to undermining ultimately the Syrian national unity, territorial integrity. Otherwise, this means partition. And I know this is something that no one, at least people we talk with, would like to see. It also means progress on the humanitarian access, that's the de-escalation, detainees, abductees and missing people, and progress on the scourge of the problems of humanitarian demining. So the third point is the stabilization phase, which could start, and in fact should be starting, more or less dovetailing with the de-escalation phase. This could become very much a priority anyway, just after the liberation of Raqqa. And that could mean, in fact, much more energy in the search by all those who have been simplifying or believing in this simplified new approach for a genuine, credible, inclusive political process guided by Resolution 2254 within the possible implementation of a pragmatic, realistic approach negotiated among the Syrians and assisted by the international community. This could take the form within 2254 of a practical combination of institutional engineering, which will, within 2254, involve government, opposition, and give a voice to local emerging leaderships, which are there, exist there, and we are hearing them. And then, of course, that's our main mantra, and we will never give up on it, the role of women and the important role of civil society. So this is the political, geopolitical, current context in which these talks are planning, like Astana, to contribute to, not to make the revolutionary change. So back to where we are on the current talks. We are not expecting, therefore, breakthroughs, because we are part of all this, and we want to be supporting all this. But some incremental development, yes, as we have seen for Astana. And we are doing a lot of homework, and we plan to do it during these days, so they can be used at the right time, and it could be much earlier than we may be thinking, when in fact the regional, political, and global scenarios will allow this to actually become the Geneva conference. Especially watch when it will be the liberation of Astana. Meanwhile, today we had preliminary meetings with the government delegation led by Ambassador Jafari, with a very special meeting with the P5 representatives of the Security Council here in Geneva, where we explained basically the scenario and what could be our own aim. And we received, I must say, and I felt comforted, strong unified support to the Geneva approach and to our own intentions. Then we had a working luncheon following two quite constructive technical rounds in which the oppositions were all together with our own team. And today at the working luncheon we had all three opposition representative leaders and myself and my colleagues discussing how to proceed in a way that hopefully we could see more and more progress on a opposition's common position regarding important issues. For instance, the 12 principal points. At a certain point, whatever will happen, we will be having a need for having done at least that type of homework, and perhaps any other commonality that may be taking place among the opposition and perhaps even with the government on issues in which they can work together or at least agree upon. So the mantra today is we are part of a support operation. Lots is happening. There is a lot of moving parts. If the focus is on simplification, well, we should be helping that, and we should be helping with incremental preparation for the right time. I will tell you much more, of course, at the end of this round of talks on Friday, God willing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Minister. Okay, I'll start now. Let's start with a lady, Katrine.
Good afternoon, Mr. de Mistura. Catherine Fiancon-Bokonga for France 24. Sir, you just told us that in the case of desescalation process, it has to be considered as interim. What do you mean by interim? And regarding Resolution 2254, how do you see do you plan to have specific meetings focused on the Constitution and I'm forgetting my words. The Constitution and also the fact that eventually President Assad would leave power.
Let me first address the word interim. Of course, life is full of interim arrangements, and there's nothing. Some people say that interim is a dangerous word because it could prolong itself for very much. But it's important to make that word, because interim means that these de-escalation areas, which are likely to take place elsewhere, and that's of course our wish too, and the practical arrangements which are going to lead to military observation presence by various countries, should not become the preparation by default of what is or could become a de facto areas of influence or permanent type of partition of the country. Because I think everyone agrees that is not going to have to happen, and certainly the UN is supporting, based on 2254, but on principles that we were well known and we did apply both in Iraq and Afghanistan, the sovereignty and national integrity of Syria needs to be protected. That doesn't mean that during a period, in order to calm down the water, there is a need of interim arrangements. That's the main point.
Are creating risks to the global trading system. Nowhere is this more clear than in relation to the dumping of steel on global markets. The urgent need to act to remove excess capacity was